And I will now take a roll call. Bev Bates,
I know you want me to say here.
thank you.
Here.
Richard Abuza,
Here.
Hannah Schaefer,
Here.
Gordon Shaw,
Present.
and Gwen Navad here. I think that's all of us. If we could just, I think everyone who is a member of this commission knows who each other is. Are there any introductions for any new members tonight? Okay. And next, we would like to hear any public comments.
I'm just here to listen in, but hello, everybody.
Good to see you, Benjamin.
Benjamin Spencer in Northampton.
Good to see people here. And so, anyone else? Ace?
Hi, Ace Talo, they, them, former member. How's it going, folks? I wanted to speak on the broker's fee bill, which I know is coming up. I unfortunately don't have time to stay for the whole meeting, so if I could say my piece now. Great,
Absolutely.
thanks. I was on the housing partnership when this all went through the first time. It's a little galling to know that it hasn't passed at the state level, but I'm still in strong support of it as written. I know that last year the governor made an announcement about a possible law to ban brokers' fees across all of Massachusetts. The details of that law state that her version would require brokers to be paid by whoever was engaging the services of the broker. So that would basically codify what is going on in Northampton now into law, rather than actually requiring landlords to pay the fees. So based on that, I am in strong support of refiling this, hopefully getting it passed before any of that starts coming into effect. And fingers crossed, the governor redefines engaging the services as requiring that being the landlord. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. Next, we have a presentation by Preservation of Affordable Housing for Meadowbrook Rehabilitation Project.
Hi, yes, I'll be giving that presentation. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Austin Brass. I'm with POA, and I'll share my screen and do a brief presentation for y'all, if that's all right. I'll try not to take too much of your time. But,
Austin, before you begin, can I just kind of give an introduction before you
oh,
start?
yeah, please.
As everyone, so Preservation of Affordable Housing, they own Meadowbrook, but they did come for CDBG application for funding. We're preparing our action plan. Hopefully it'll be ready by next Monday. We have our meeting, but they're asking for some money for phase one, and the office is definitely in support of it. And so out of this, I think there's some great history here about Meadowbrook. So I want, to continue with that, but also if at the end you all are in favor of it, then we would definitely take a letter of support. I don't need it. I'm in support of the project. But yeah, that's all. Thanks, Austin.
Oh, thank you for the introduction. Okay, let's see, make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Let me know if you can see the presentation.
Looks good.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so I'm with Preservation of Affordable Housing, or just POA for short. And today I'll be talking about the Meadowbrook recapitalization of the project. I'm the associate on the project, and then Josh Barrett will be the head project manager, but he's currently on a plane doing a resident meeting at another POA project.
Good evening,
So-
folks. I was
Oh.
able to attend. Sorry, Austin, to cut you
Nice.
off. Good evening. I'm Josh Barrett. I'm also with POA. I won't interrupt you anymore, Austin, but I just want to let you know I
No,
joined.
no, thank you. Yeah, I didn't know you were there, so thank you. So yeah, what is POA? POA is a national nonprofit. Our mission is to preserve and create and sustain affordable housing across the country. We've been revitalizing at-risk affordable housing since 2001, and this has resulted in the preservation of more than 13,000 affordable rental projects. So we also, preserve affordable units, but we also successfully engage, like we're doing now, in public policies and get involved in the community that really help the nation's subsidized housing. So here's where we're physically located across the country. I'm physically located in the Boston office. I've been out to Northampton, but so I like to travel. I would love to be there in person, but it was a little dreary today. So thank you for doing this over Zoom. And the Meadowbrook project. So, here's a few pictures of it. As you can see, that's its proximity to Boston. There's some decent playgrounds and community facilities there. It's a 252 unit property in Massachusetts, so quite a large site. I'll briefly go over resident demographics. We have 99 residents that make around 10 to 20K. Most of them are English speakers, but we have a wide diversity of race. The age distribution, as you can see, is relatively large, 61 from 55 to 64 and up, but it's predominantly female. And then a large portion of the property is unemployed and not work eligible. So a little bit more about the physical construction. It's a stick built in 1974. Across a very large campus, 29 buildings, 27 acres. We're currently 96.83% occupied, which my math is a little bit off, but maybe 244 units. Former Section 236 property that was at risk of market conversion in the early 2000s, and that's when POA swooped in and acquired the property and to preserve it in 2005 to actually prevent it from becoming a market rate property. We executed a tax credit application to complete a modest but significant rehab of about 17,000 per unit. And MHIC, the syndicator on the deal, exited the partnership. So now it's wholly owned by POA. A brief overview of the unit mix. It's 1-2 bedrooms predominantly, with a few 3 and 4 bedrooms. There's a tax credit land use restriction agreement on the property for 222 units, so 88% of the property. And this is at 60% AMI. It's 25 tax credit units, further restricted at 30% AMI. There are 9 project-based vouchers, but roughly 160 units hold some form of subsidy. So there is significant mobile voucher population, but a large affordable population at this property. So the goal in our rehab would be to expand the number of tax credit units given the affordability of the property. And this would improve the amount of tax credit basis we could generate and also, increase the size of the rehab. So here's just a few things we do at the property currently. Since we've been operating it since 2005, we've invested in the swimming pool in 2003. This is a large facility, a lot of children at the property. So we considered the swimming pool during the summer a great investment for the community. But we also have a full-time CIC, which is a community impact coordinator. So they will be on site helping residents with utility assistance, food assistance, income certification. It can be a complicated process for a lot of them. So having that on-site resource is a big plus, but they also have assistance to the community impact coordinator. So we really have invested in the staff and the physical property. And we do look to partner with, local food banks as well. CVS, Northampton Public Schools, and we do ongoing community events as much as we can. And in 2005, we looked to launch the POA Powers program, which is a more comprehensive program, which essentially provides a range of financial coaching services for residents. It helps them with rent payments, employment assistance, reporting to credit and building credit, because that can be such a big challenge for a lot of our residents. So we're really trying to not just invest in the physical assets of the community, but the residents themselves. So historically, the property has operated at a deficit, unfortunately. Now, this is considering that we refinanced the property in 2018, dividing the first mortgage into 2 tranches of debt. This resulted in about $135K of debt service savings. Even with that, annual debt service, unfortunately, hasn't been able to cover NOI. So a lot of our capital funded projects have ultimately led to an annual deficit of around 200K a year in a 5-year average. So the property as it currently sits is operating at a loss. The current rate of operations is unsustainable. Our replacement reserve balance, the reserves at the property are slowly getting eaten away every year. At 533K is the current balance amount. And the building is 50 years old now. So, building components are aging and the infrastructure of the property is aging. Now, the complexities of this project, I could go on, obviously it's an aging building, but there's a main gas line that runs through the property. POA is considered a utility distributor because the gas line is not metered out to the individual buildings themselves. So that would be a part of this project. That would add to, utility cost savings for residents, but that is incredibly costly. So that's why we're pursuing electric options and resources. And we estimate about $2.5 to $3 million in additional capital repair needs. So with that replacement reserve balance, obviously isn't enough to cover it. We're talking everything from siding on the exteriors to interior improvements to the floors, HVACs, sanitary lines. The work, the list goes on and on. So our goals of the rehab, essentially what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to make it more energy efficient, reduce energy consumption at the property, lower utility bills for residents, and increase the climate resiliency for the near future. Because, the climate isn't getting any friendlier to these properties. So we need to beef them up for the future. We're also trying to improve accessibility. This could include, increasing the number of grab bars at the property, widening doorways, ramps for ADA units, as well as adapting 5% of the units that aren't ADA and making them ADA in a rehab. And we also want to ensure code compliance, obviously. So updating the electrical systems, plumbing systems, structural systems to make sure that it's not just continues to be code compliant, but it is for the overall future. So our strategy on how we're trying to do this, we're getting creative because we need to divide the rehab up into 2 phases, essentially. This would be about half the property, 126 units. This allows us to maximize the rehab by more efficiently using state and local resources. So we're not putting such a big strain on the state when we're asking for all these resources at once. We're able to break it out over years and continue to utilize those state resources in a less cumbersome way. And it overall just increases the amount of work we can do and accomplish at the site. So sort of a win-win. This is a lot of numbers I'm going to be throwing at you at this slide. This is our sources and uses are just our financing that we're having. Obviously a very large first mortgage. POA is contributing $1 million of its capital magnet funds to this project. We'll also be applying for FHLB funds, Affordable Housing Trust funds. There you can see Northampton CDBG money will be relying on. We're trying to get state and federal LIHTC equity, as well as solar tax credits. We'll bring in as much of the reserves as we can. POA is deferring a lot of its fee to bring it into the rehab, so we can actually do as much work as possible. All this will translate to a rehab of roughly $111,000 per unit. Then that includes the POA resources. So now what's the timeline we're looking at? Q2 and Q3 of this year is when we'll be discussing and meeting with EOHLC, Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. That's the state housing agency. We'll be talking about tax credit application and timeline. During this, right now, until the end of the year, we'll be developing the scope with the architect firm, Davis Square Architects, you might have heard of them, and other design teams as well. and we'll be pursuing sources for phase 1 of this project. At the end of this year, we'll be going in for the winter round. That's traditionally when EOHLC will be having us compete for funds. So that's when we expect to go in for a tax credit application. Ideally, in 2026, we receive tax credits. We'll finalize tax exempt bonds, which is a source of financing for these projects. And then in 2027 is when we'll close and begin construction. So I hope I kept that short. I know I threw a lot at you for a very complex, a very large project, but let me know if you have any questions.
Great, thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions?
So when you talk about energy efficiency, what exactly are you proposing to do? Is it simply just converting to electricity, which doesn't always mean savings?
No, it
for
doesn't.
the
And I'm
tenant?
not the expert on this, so I'll try to give my best answer. But I know there's improvements that can be made to the enclosure to prevent the escape of heat and heat during the winter and cooling during the summer. That we did some pressurized testing, and those results were less than ideal. So ideally, we can improve the enclosure to prevent the loss of energy, and therefore the residents aren't having to use as much energy during the winter months and AC during the summer months.
And we'd also look at improving appliances, upgrading appliances to energy efficiency. The electrification process itself is quite costly, so we may not be able to pursue that fully throughout the property, but we would replace building systems that are aging with more efficient newer equipment, which would improve the overall efficiency. And we do look to add solar panel arrays where we can at our properties. We take advantage of the investment tax credit, but those also generate low-income housing tax credit. So essentially most of the solar work is essentially paid for. So it makes economic sense to do this, and it can reduce the overall electric usage at the property.
And have another question. So one ongoing chronic complaint that we hear from tenants in these buildings is that the basement apartments have chronic dampness. And I'm not sure there's been anything real. I mean, there hasn't really been anything. It's a structural issue, and I don't know if there's anything in this plan to address that, because those units sometimes are almost uninhabitable.
Yeah, and we would, so we have included that in this scope of work. So we would look at the drainage around the buildings to improve that. So we know that is a concern on some of the basement units. So it is something we would address through drainage around the building and to try to resolve that.
I was going to ask about solar as well. Can you go into a little bit more depth about what the potential opportunity there is? And I don't know how the tenant billing works for utilities. So each individual tenant pays their own electric bill, and if there is solar, how would solar offsets benefit the tenant?
Yeah, so we the solar would be dependent on each property. So here there's 29 buildings roughly. So we would look to do roof arrays where we can. We'll sometimes do like ground mount systems if we can. So we typically we'll work with different solar vendors to find the best proposal for each property, which what makes sense and what the cost of that would be. And so that would be used to offset electric usage. So here the utilities are paid by the residents. And so there is a method to benefit residents by reducing their electric usage and therefore reducing their utilities impact. And we can certainly follow up with more information directly how they benefit, but in buildings that are where there are resident utilities, they can, especially in affordable properties, it can directly benefit the residents by reducing their utility spending.
Thanks. And I'm another question. I'm sorry I came in late. I'm not sure if this was said at the very beginning about the overall timeline and process, but what is the sort of estimated time of per unit rehab? How long does the whole thing take?
Yeah, so we're proposing to split this into two projects. So it'd be roughly half of it for phase one. Typically for 126 units, we're probably looking at somewhere between 12 and 18 months. It depends on the level of unit. So usually when we have a unit rehab, we'll do 100% unit walk, and the architect will create sort of a matrix of the condition of each unit. And so not every unit necessarily is getting the same rehab. If we've recently replaced your kitchen, we're not going to spend resources to do that, but we may do your bathroom, for example. And then certainly some units will have all of the work. So typically for that size, we typically see 12 to 18 months for a schedule.
I have a couple questions, Gwen. So this is great. Thank you for being here. Just a nuanced little question. When you were laying out the unit mix, there were 80 some odd, I believe, unassisted units and 30 market. What's the difference? Is it sort of a mod market kind of a unit?
Yeah, so there's Austin had put up a slide. 222 of the units out of 252 are tax credit units. So they have a land use restriction that are 60% AMI. The other 30 units are technically market, but given what we see in the market for that property, we do think that the majority of what are quote unquote market would qualify for 60% AMI. And so the goal would be in each phase would be to increase the number of tax credit units that would be land use restricted, so that residents would ultimately benefit by paying only 30% of their income. Yeah.
Great. Thanks. And the other question is, are you going to be relocating residents within the building, outside the building? How's that going to work?
Yep. So we do partner with relocation consultants on every project. So we will have a relocation team. It will depend on each building can depend, but usually what we'll do is through natural turnover, we'll acquire vacancy. And so at a project like this where it's multiple buildings, we often will try to have vacancy in one building if we can, and potentially move residents on site so that we can sort of have one whole building that's vacant, do the work in that building and move residents in. If that doesn't work, then what we typically do, we'll have vacant units throughout the property and we'll establish them as sort of on-site hotel units where residents can stay on site. There occasionally can be off-site relocation depending on the scope of work, especially when we're doing ADA units. Those tend to be 30 to 45 day scopes of work. But we try to keep residents on site, but we do work with residents if they sometimes folks have family in the area too that they may prefer to stay with, as opposed to staying in a hotel unit or something like that. So we would potentially relocate. No one will be permanently moved off the property. Everyone will have access to either their apartment or a like apartment. Again, and we will be adding accessibility as well. So we try to target units where it would benefit the property.
Thanks. One quick question, just out of curiosity. These are 9% credits, 4% credits?
These would be 4% credits. And that's a little bit of why our timeline is out to 2027, because with 4% credits, you have to pair it with tax exempt bonds. And the volume cap in Massachusetts is very constrained. So that's likely the earliest we'd be able to get into the pipeline for tax exempt debt.
Well, it's fortunate that nothing going on in the larger environment will impede your efforts. No, I couldn't resist, but I think this is a great project, and thanks for the detail.
Sure, thank you.
Austin, could we get a copy of your PowerPoint
of course.
Through Keith? I mean, there was a lot of good detail in there. You moved through it fast, and I understand you wanted to get through the content, but I'd love to go back and look at it again.
Yeah, no, of course. Keith has it, and I'm sure he'll send it up.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I just want to say I'm sorry. I should have said that I also think this is an amazing project before just launching into questions. It's an unbelievable community asset. So investment in it for the long haul is great.
We appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Keith, give him more money.
Yeah.
We're trying, but we'll know Monday
I know.
when how much we can give them. Yeah.
I want to say how happy I am if this gets approved, and it's definitely much needed. And thanks for the wonderful presentation.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for having
I
us.
move that we give them a very generous letter of support.
Do we need to do anything, Keith?
Oh,
Are
I
we
thought
looking
that's
for
what we were
anything?
looking for.
Yeah.
If you want to, I mean, I'm definitely in support of the Austin. I don't know if you talked about how much you requested. So they did request 200,000 for from CBG. You know, last year, for context, we gave Valley CDC 60,000 or 70,000 for Crafts Avenue, which is only 30 units. Previous years, we've given you know, for North Commons, we've given, that was 2018 or so, we give 50,000 for that. Yeah, 200,000 out of multi-million, but you know, I think we're fleshing out all the nuances for the CDBG stuff by Monday. So
I do have an aside in regards to the wonderful work of Grow Food Northampton and what they do in the communities, especially with low-income residents. And I'm wondering if, as part of the process, there would be a possibility for community gardens there, or I don't even know if there are already community gardens there. They distribute there. Okay, Richard.
I think this is a critical part of our housing infrastructure in Northampton, and that we ought to, as a board, support it. So I second Bev's motion. Whether or not it's, you know, required, I think it's important that we endorse it and send that message along when they apply for funds.
Okay, do we want to take a vote on that, or do we need to take a vote on that? Sure. So I guess an official motion.
Bev made
support.
one and I second it.
We tried to be official.
It's official.
I
Okay, I'm
know
gonna
the
do.
baseball cap doesn't help, but
Okay, so Gordon Shaw,
Yes.
Ben Wood,
Yes.
Bev Bates,
yes.
Hannah Schaefer,
Yes.
Richard Abuza,
Yes.
and Gwen Abad. Yes, we support this. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. We really appreciate the support. Thank you for giving us a few minutes today to present on it, Austin. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you all so much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank
thanks,
you.
y'all.
Okay,
Gwen, I have a real quick, just
Sure.
addition to your comment. My spouse worked for Grove for Northampton for a period of time and did some of the food work there, and it really is amazing. And your comment about community garden infrastructure, I think, is a really good one to
yeah,
talk about again at some point
I agree.
with them over the course of this project. See if there is opportunity for some green infrastructure there related to
Super.
food and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, times are getting really tough. We don't know what's going to happen right now, so I think it just provides a little bit of security.
And it just increases the
a great
social
program.
environment too, and all those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I am at this point going to go back and we're going to talk about the minutes from last month. Wondering if everybody had a minute to review them. And if so, could we get a motion to approve the minutes or any corrections?
Motion to approve the minutes from the March meeting.
Thank you. Second? Thank you, Gordon. Okay, so a roll call on the minutes. Bev Bates?
Yes, I wasn't there, but I can't remember the protocol around that. But
You
I
can
think
abs-
yes is the right answer.
You can abstain and it won't change the vote.
All right, I shall abstain.
Okay. Richard Abuza?
Staining, I was not there.
Okay. Hannah Schaefer? You were muted.
Yes. Sorry.
Thank you. Gordon Shaw?
Yes.
And Ben Wood
Yes.
and Gwen Nabad, yes. Okay, next on our agenda is an order for special legislation relative to the broker's fees. City Council will vote on the order on April 17th.
Both city councilors, Councilor Jarrett, and Councilor Maori wanted to be here, but they could not be here. But they did forward that information to us.
Okay. Great. So I guess if anybody wants to go on the 17th and say, do this, we could do that.
Is it
Okay,
essentially the same home rule content that we saw a few years ago? They haven't, they just rewrote it, reprinted it?
at this time,
Okay.
yep. It needs to be renewed each cycle.
Yeah, I saw the email that explained the reasoning, but I didn't see the actual, if it was attached, I didn't look to see if the actual home rule, or what the ordinance itself was there.
So showing up, we would be showing up to lend support, just as like a presence for the housing partnership. Is that correct?
Yes, or if we wanted to make a recommendation from this meeting, we could send a letter ahead in our stead.
Got it.
Okay, so we could send a letter or we could show up at the meeting, or Richard?
I believe we're already on record in strong support of this, and I think it's appropriate to say the circumstances have not gotten any less challenging for tenants and that we continue to strongly support it.
Which leads to our next agenda item, unless anyone else has anything to say on that one.
I was gonna
Hannah.
ask if,
Oh.
Richard, if that was a motion or.
I think it's worth doing another letter just so that, or a statement from the board that we reviewed it and that it still merits our support. That's part of our role, is to advocate at this juncture. So yes, so moved. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, we'll do a roll call on that. Hannah Schaefer,
Yes.
Ben Wood,
Yes.
Gordon Shaw,
Yes.
Bev Bates,
Yes.
Richard Abuza,
Yes.
Gwen Nabad, yes. Okay. And next up is, I think, Hannah, broker fee op-ed.
Yeah. Also, just regarding the yeses that we all gave, who writes that and sends it to city council ahead of the meeting?
I can do up a rough draft, and then if people want to look at it and check on it and sign off on it, that's good.
Does that have
We will
to-
not be able to, will the need for the letter be by April 17th?
Yes.
Okay, so, we'll need it before the May meeting, so I'll start working on it immediately and I'll send it out in a Google document.
I think because of the nature of Google Docs, that it's a violation of open meeting law, so.
Okay,
If the partnership is okay, you can create a draft and send it to city council without their approval if they choose to do that, but if we're gonna edit it, then we need to be more cognizant of how we do it.
Okay,
I'm comfortable with you, you know, it's a straightforward endorsement that I don't
okay,
overthink it.
okay, great.
Mm.
I will do that. Hannah.
Thank you, Gwen. Yeah, so last month I had written a piece that is intended to be an op-ed, just, continuing to be a presence in favor of the broker fee reform. We had met as a subcommittee, and Gordon had given me some great feedback. When I saw that you had some feedback, so I don't know if there's other feedback that people have. I mean, I would love to submit it this week if possible, but I think that the purpose of this moment is just to solicit feedback, see if there's anything that people have to say, if people are comfortable with it as is. So yeah, I would just love your thoughts.
I think in light of when we when we did this draft, Hannah, we didn't realize there was going to be another vote by city council. So maybe the paragraph that mentions what we did in 2022 could have some amended to add in that it's their city council is actually voting again and submitting it as a home rule petition. Just because that also makes this a little bit even more timely for if it's published, because
Yeah.
it'll gets published before the April 17th city council meeting. That would be I'm sure the council would love to see that in print. So this in print.
That's a great point.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Hannah, I apologize. Somehow I missed the request for feedback. But you've been working on this for so long, you know way more about it than I do, and I'm happy to assume that all of the voices have created a great document. So I say, especially given the timing, let's rock and roll.
Hannah, I can take another look at it, like tonight if you want. And if I see anything else, I can I just kind of put a little bit in there, but it was certainly nothing compared to what you've done and Gordon in terms of pulling it together. So thank you so much both for your work.
The only thing is that in public meeting, we would need to accept the draft or endorse what's been written. If unless, I mean, we could authorize if there's some sort of minus modification that we're all comfortable with it, like amending and putting in another sentence that explains what's happening at city council on April 17th. Beyond that, I don't think we can. We're going to do some wholesale revisions. We might have to come back another month, which is not what we want, right?
Right.
I think you can authorize Hannah to make those edits and.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so if I could get a motion to authorize Hannah to make the final edits and submit it for publication, I think that would be correct. Yeah.
And I do have just two questions. One
Okay.
is there like a formal way that I'm supposed to kind of sign off saying that this is endorsed by the housing partnership?
Yes, let me just double check. We haven't, last time we did this, I forgot, but I believe the mayor may want to look at it, but I had to double check.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think it can go out with your name as a member of the Northampton Housing Partnership or on behalf of the Northampton Housing Partnership,
Correct.
if you feel more
Mhm.
comfortable like that.
Great.
I sure hope our recommendations don't have to get approved by the mayor before we're allowed to speak our voice. If that's the,
Mm.
I know about that.
Yeah, I do.
Yes,
I
no,
do just want to clarify that.
Yeah, I just want to clarify because it's been a minute and since we've done anything. So just want to double check, but I'm sure it's fine.
In response to your question, I move that we authorize Hannah to send this letter with any modifications reflecting the discussions at this meeting and do it on behalf of the partnership.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll take a roll call on that. Bev Bates,
Yes.
Richard Abuza,
Yes.
Hannah Schaefer,
Should I say yes? Do I need to abstain? Can I say yes in favor? Yes.
Ben Wood,
Yes, I think the op-ed is great.
Gordon Shaw,
Yes.
and Gwen Abad, yes. Okay, does anybody else have anything to talk about, bring attention to, any kind of announcements or any other business not otherwise anticipated?
Can I ask a question about the city council hearing? Is there an anticipation that there will be folks from the landlord community or broker representation at the city council meeting with a loud voice? Do people have a sense
Always.
of that? Yes. Okay. Thanks.
If I could infer to that point, any of us who can actually show up in person, it would probably be a good thing. I asked that as a question, not to offer a speech, but that seems to be the truth.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there has been opposition to this previously. You know, landlords have come and said it's going to force them to increase the amount of rent they collect. You know, different things like that. So, you know, and it's really great that both Hannah and Ace mentioned it earlier, that were the governor to approve it the way it's written right now, there could be like this little sort of error in the codification of this. And so if we can get this in, it would be great. And I just want to thank everyone for doing the work on this over the years, because it's been a few years, like I think since 2021, 2022, we've been talking about this. So great. Thank you. Anybody else?
I just had two things. I was wondering, is it possible to get like a reminder email before that city council meeting? Just reminding the housing partnership to show up if we're able.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you so much. That helps.
I was also wondering in regards to the op-ed, I know that I had spoken with Gordon. There were a few places that I could potentially submit it. Mass Live, the Republican, and Gazette. I'm not sure, like, is there one I should favor over the other? Can you submit an op-ed to all three? You can? Okay.
All
Done
right.
it.
Oh, go
Or-
Hannah.
Yes.
I love it. Okay.
All
I
right.
didn't know if I had to write like three slightly different versions. That's great.
Uh-huh. Awesome. Well, that leaves us with one final motion.
I'll move to adjourn.
I
Second.
just want to say I won't be here for the May meeting. I'll be out of town. So I'll miss you guys. See you in June.
Okay, thank you. And actually, I should mention, I may not be here for the May meeting. So it's not a definitive, but I want to put it out there now. Okay. Can I get a second on that?
Second for ending the meeting.
Yep. And we don't need a roll call for that. All right, thank you.